It's worth noting that the crypto market is it's sort of parallel right now with everything else that's happening in the world, especially the traditional markets. You look at sectors, in the S&P 500, the tech sector got completely wiped out in the last about 18 months or so. Plus, especially in the last 12 months, Facebook laying off 10,000 employees, just a lot of like layoffs and cuts, and the tech sector took a massive beating. And a lot of those companies, because their risk appetite expands above, beyond their the traditional markets, they had exposure to crypto, and they had exposure to crypto through many different entities, whether it was a hedge fund or directly with an exchange. A lot of these companies found out firsthand, the danger of leverage, right, and being over leveraged in a non-regulated space. And that's really what's happened in the last 12 months. Has been the great deleveraging of crypto, and you saw it first take place with the collapse of Terra, the Terra network, in May of last year, or this year, so the May of this year. The collapse of the Luna stablecoin, which sort of initiated the beginning of the unraveling of all these over leveraged positions, and then ultimately, culminated with the collapse of FTX, right, the second largest exchange in the world, behind only to Binance. And Sam and CZ. CZ is the founder of Binance. Sam Bankman-Fried is they call him SBF for short. He's the founder of FTX, and you know they were always in bed with each other. They had a good relationship up until the end, when SBF Sam really started showcasing his desire for regulation, his desire to get in bed with regulators, the government, and align himself with political parties, and really take crypto out of the ethos of decentralization to a more centralized, governed environment. Which the irony, it was so it's I find it so much irony in that, now knowing what everybody knows, that he was operating in the most unregulated way possible, but he was yet screaming for support from regulators. And CZ an angel round investment with FTX. They invested over $1 billion worth of funds into FTX in a partnership. They held a position on FTT, which was FTX's exchange token, of $500 million that they held. And when rumors came about that FTX was possibly insolvent, as what you have to understand, what Sam did was, he was careless with people's monies, and he used all the deposits that were in the exchange to leverage and borrow money for trading, right? And he started trading using his branch arm called Alameda Research, which is it was a hedge fund, a trading hedge fund. So he started funneling consumer funds that were supposed to be going to FTX, and essentially started given access to his trading firm consumer funds. And eventually, the culmination of the market being extremely volatile, and taking such a downturn, caused FTX to lose a bunch of cash. And it was publicized recently that Caroline, the CEO of Alameda Research, the trading arm of FTX, her biggest loss in a single day was $1.3 billion trading. She took a $1.3 billion loss trading. And this is extremely alarming, because obviously that's a lot of cash to lose, especially if it's leveraged. And when ZZ sort of got wind of what was happening internally from his team, and someone that sort of blew the whistle internally what was happening in FTX, he was like, I'm not going to hold $500 million. It's $500 million. It's not $5 million. It's not $100,000. It's $500 million. He's like, I'm not gonna hold this on my balance sheet while this thing goes to zero. So he publicly said it, and maybe in an attempt to really prove the solvency of FTX, he said it publicly. Hey, I'm going to begin to sell off our position on FTT. And sure enough, $50 million immediately was sold off, right? And then another $50 million was sold off. And then the controversy began because Caroline, the CEO of Alameda said, well, don't worry, we'll buy them all at $22. And she literally publicly said, don't worry, sell them all. We'll buy them all at $22, implying that they had $1 billion sitting around there, to pick up all the, these tokens being sold off. And that wasn't the case. The next day she was fired, or quote unquote, she resigned the very next day. And within 72 hours, everybody began to panic withdraw their funds from FTX. And everybody saw how insolvent the company was. They had to halt withdrawals, and the entire thing just collapsed in a matter of days. I mean, it was from a Saturday to Monday, and the events took place. Yeah, 72 hours is what it took to unravel the entire thing. And there's a couple of things you always have to keep in mind. It's like startups are not immune to to leadership experience, to market conditions experience, right? And I think FTX, I want to give Sam some grace, because as a founder of a crypto project that I'm scaling as well with you, there are some things that you only learn with experience, right? And to grow from 0 to $32 billion in less than 36 months, you cannot accumulate the amount of experience that you need in that period of time to run a company of that magnitude. And it all started to come out recently, right? The company's accounting was run on QuickBooks, right? A $32 billion company, accounting was done on QuickBooks. Yeah, I mean, like, think about that. People were joking around, like, I wonder if they were using the free version or the pro version. Like, so it's like some of those things. It seems so comical now, right? You like think about it, but the reality of it is, I mean, this was some people's life savings were on this platform. Some people had their entire, livelihood of crypto in these platforms. I know some crypto influencers that lost millions and millions of dollars, from this platform, the collapse of this platform. And, it just set the stage for probably a prolonged bear market. And what now people are saying, we're not going to have a crypto winter, we're going to have a crypto ice age. And because of what's all the unraveling that still has to take place, we don't know the full extent of the collateral damage. Some people are still trying to salvage their businesses behind closed doors, right? And if they can't do that within the next probably 3 to 6 months, you're going to see more companies announce that they can't stay operational anymore, because they're probably running operations right now, with whatever they have left, and they haven't said anything yet to not cause any more panic. So as the federal, we can talk about the Fed later as well. As the Fed continues to tighten monetary policies, the state of crypto is only going to get worse. And to me, I get excited about that, one, because it gives me the opportunity to, one, take my time scaling our company in an efficient manner. It gives me the opportunity to get developers at a discount, because nobody's going to have a lot of work. And it gives me the opportunity to really take our time and educate folks and prepare them for the aftermath of what comes next, which is after every massive downturn in the market comes a massive upturn in the market, right? So, having enough time to prepare our community for that and have them ready, it's something that I look forward to.
Yeah, man, I think that these times make it are the best for doubling down on education, supporting your people, learning to and doing it in a more controlled way, instead of having to continuously be in this rush of trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, imagine always entering this space in a state of fear, missing out, constantly like doing everything in a hurry, making mistakes, losing money. I mean, that's how most people enter the market between 2021 and 2022, they were like, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. And they would ended up just losing most of their money, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's insane, man. And you did start to talk about besides QuickBooks, you tried to talk about a little bit about the Fed, right? We heard what yesterday about the half point raise to try to combat the spike in inflation and everything else. So that we have um, a great trainer and instructor in Jason who keeps us all kind of up to
Yeah.
date, gives us an early look on what's happening in the market and not not just crypto specifically, but what's happening everywhere else and how it affects how everything affects everything essentially. Um,
Exactly.
Based on I know obviously your outlook is more focused on the Web3 space because that's you're a crypto professional and you've been at this for a while. So what do you see is currently happening? Like especially with the announcements yesterday. Like is there something? Does it allow you to echo something that we've already been saying, or is there something new that you want to share?
You know, Powell, right, came yesterday and announced a 50-point hike, bringing rates now to 4.25 to 4.5%. Right, a year ago we were trending at almost zero to 0.25 interest, right, 0 to 25 basis points. So it was basically free to borrow money, and that's why you had the surges of real estate booms and the car industry boom, right? I had a buddy who financed a car for 72 months, 0% interest. Like, how does a company make money? They don't. They make the money on the car, and that was it. All right, so no fund, no profits being made on lending, and that caused an extreme shock in supply as demand was so high, supply, that we had a supply shock, right? So the price of goods began to go up, which is what inflation is, right? Inflation is a surplus of cash being introduced into the economy, which causes people to have a lot more money than before at a devalued price, which allows people to buy quantities of goods that they couldn't before, right? You have people buying, splurging on TVs and buying things that they normally couldn't before because there were 13 some odd trillion dollars of new cash being injected into the economy, especially with, if you think about mortgage rates being at people getting 30-year fixed mortgages for 2%, historical lows. And you look at decade over decade, the average mortgage rate is between 4 to 6%, and borrowing at 2% interest on a mortgage, that's just like, you never heard that. You ever heard, it was like almost like free money to buy houses. So you experience what is called a supply shock, right? There's just not enough inventory, and it all lined up with post COVID, right? COVID put a massive strain on the supply chain. With an increased amount of demand, things just go up in value, exponentially, and you can see it at the grocery stores. You feel it everywhere. You feel it, in the gas pumps. You feel it everywhere. And the Fed, in order to fulfill this purpose, which the Fed's purpose is to maintain the price of goods at an affordable level for the American people, right? In order to stabilize price, which they call price stability, they need to shorten the the cash flow supply to the government. So they begin to essentially raise how much money it costs to borrow. How much it costs to borrow money, and by raising these interest rates, the government starts to borrow less, right? Because it's more expensive to borrow. Banks borrow less because it's more expensive to borrow. And they begin to charge more for lending. They begin to charge more for things that you normally would finance, like a home or a vehicle, which makes up the majority of all consumer debt, right? So consumer debt is broken down into two major sectors, right? You have collateralized long-term debt, and you have uncollateralized short-term debt. And when you have uncollateralized short-term debt, you think about credit cards, right? Lines of credit cards. These are things that are high risk assets because they're not backed by anything except your credit score. and the faith of you being able to pay it back. And then you have collateralized debt, which is your homes and your cars. Well, the majority of all collateralized debt are basic human necessities. Everybody needs a home, everybody needs a car. So, when you begin to raise rates on borrowing what is essential for human living, right? Because uncollateralized debt is not essential for human living. You can get by without a new TV. You can get by without a new, without the latest sneakers and and going out to dinner every night. But you can't get by without a roof over your head. You need a roof over your head and you need a car. So putting a strain and the ability for the average person to get that makes it so that people begin to conserve cash. They begin to be more conservative in their spending, how much they take risk, right? They begin to just sort of hold on to their cash more and become more frugal rather than frivolous, right? So when cash is tight, you become more frugal. When the cash is flowing, you become more frivolous. You buy the nice watches, the nice shoes, and you're out there, showing off. Well, where the Fed's mission right now is to make people turn more frugal, and to do that, they need to make money very expensive to borrow. And by doing that, people will begin to hold on to their money. They won't buy as many things. And what that does is that it begins to lessen the demand for goods. As the demand for goods begins to drop, the supply begins to increase, because now you have what is called aging inventory. And when you have aging inventory on the shelves, right, on the stores, whether it's a Walmart TVs, computers, and at the grocery stores, you may have an excess of milk that's being spoiled, right? Like when you have aging inventory, it could be breads that are expiring. Stores would begin to put things on sale. You'll see the buy one get one freeze. You'll see that buy it within the next, buy this and consume it within the next 48 hours for 50% off. Like you go to you go to some stores and you're like, this steak is 50% off, but you need to consume it within the next 3 days. Right. So you begin to have a surplus of inventory and a decrease in demand because people are holding on to their cash because they want to save it for more important things.
Yeah.
Right. Like a house and a car. Right. And as they do that, then what happens is the balance of supply and demand begins to even out. And then you eventually, what ends up happening over a long period of time, or a prolonged period of time, is that there's so much supply and so little demand, right? That now things are extremely affordable because everything is discounted, everything's on sale, including homes, cars, televisions, computers, right? Everything's on sale because there's so much of it available because people are not spending money. And then what happens is the Fed then turns around and they reach what is called an ideal inflationary point, which is in the Fed's mind is 2%, right? And when the consumer price index reaches that 2%, then what happens is they begin to ease on their monetary policy to incentivize people to start borrowing again.
Yeah.
So what they do is they make it easier for you to borrow money. So they begin to lower interest rates. And now you have this surplus of cash, right? If you've been saving money, you have additional money in your savings account because you haven't gone out to dinner in the last 2 years. You haven't taken vacations in the last 2 years. You've been saving money, right? Now it becomes cheaper to borrow again. And you have a surplus of cash to give down payments for homes. You have a surplus of cash to finance. And then the cycle begins to repeat itself all over again. And that is just an economic cycle that happens literally every 10 to 15 years. It's cyclical. It has to happen. It's just how the economy works. The issue is that there you have anomalies and events that aren't unpredictable, like a pandemic, right, or a world war. There are things that can happen that can throw off those what will be traditional market cycles. And some can argue that it's premeditated. Some can argue that the stuff is planned just for the rich to get richer, or to throw a wrench in the timing so people don't figure out how to build wealth. And if you think about it, some of the stuff could be argued. Some conspiracy theorists could argue like, well, by the time you figure out how the game works, they change the rules, right? They change the rules again, so you have to relearn the new game, right? And the insiders know the rules, so you're always one cycle behind.
Yeah.
And that's really the what makes it hard, that combined with lack of financial education in our schools and things, it just creates for it makes it so every event is catastrophically multiplied. What should be felt at a 2x is felt at a 5x, right? Because most people are not financially educated enough to understand how market cycles work, and they react. They're counting on you to react out of emotion and not logic. They're counting on you to panic. They're counting on you to, that's why you have these shock events where it's like, oh, this new pandemic may be coming out, like, or this may be happening. You need to stock up on goods, right? They give you these shock events for you to react emotionally. So for you to go to the stores and buy up all the water, buy up all the toilet paper, buy up all the goods. So, and you could say that it's pre-planned by the media. You have all these things, but I'm getting off track. But I'm just trying to say the financial system is so complex, right? It's so complex that the average person is always 6 months to a year behind. By the time you catch on to what's happening, it's already happened. You're just seeing now the mass effect of the population feeling it, right?
Mm-hmm. It's happening everywhere. It's again, I think we're all feeling the effects of the recession that it's almost still not here, right? At least not yet. At least the bottom is not here yet. Um, when you start to see, again, I've had this conversation yesterday. Uh, the lending industry. We have a lot of friends that were doing merchant cash advancing, and they're having massive layoffs. I'm talking about like 30% of a labor force or of a team laid off at once. Um, the mortgage industry, right? It's slowed down a lot, right? My friend doing in the mortgage business, it's just not happening. People are saving their money. People are not taking action. They're asking a lot of questions, right? They're asking more questions than they are taking steps in moving forward with an investment. And again, it shows. People are defaulting on cars. People are defaulting on their homes already. It's starting to happen, right? So these are the things that happen, right? It's the current state that we're in. What is that based on where the market's at, and I guess all the other ridiculousness that's occurred over the last few weeks. What is the current state of the crypto market? What does that say about is it shifting how people are seeing the crypto market? Is it driving new innovations? Right? Are people talking about regulations? Like what's happening now?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? Because the crypto market is suffering from a lack of interest right now, right? As people are losing money in the traditional market, seeing their 401ks lose value, right? Potentially losing their jobs, not being able to pay bills. They're not looking to the crypto market right now because they understand, or they assume, and they can look at a mobile app and see the price of Bitcoin dropping every day, right? So there's a lack of interest in this space right now because it goes combined with a lack of education in the space, right? So people don't understand the space enough, and then they just see the bilateral, the parallel effect of the market collapsing at the same time that the stock market is pulling back. So they're like, well, if I'm not taking risk in the stock market, why would I take risk with crypto, right? Which is even more riskier. And I think for me, the way that I view this is my third bear market in the space, right? So this is not my first merry-go-round nor my second. It's my third time doing this. And during these times, it's where innovation really thrives. And I'll tell you why. Innovation is needed during these times because people have to create ways to attract new users to the space. People have to create ways to incentivize people to come participate. So they innovate on the technology to make it more fun, more user friendly, right? They introduce new ideas, right? They introduce new things that are just that didn't exist, right? In order to get people excited about coming back to speculate on the market. So that's why I love bear markets, is because it weeds out the weak. The weak die off. The people that have poor entrepreneurship skills, the people that are lazy, the people that are unmotivated to work for free, the people that have no desire to like put sweat and blood equity is what I call it, right? And put this time in, they'll quit. They'll quit. They'll try to go get a job in Silicon Valley. They'll try to get a job, somewhere else, work remotely as a developer, but they will stop innovating in the space, and they may come back in the next run, right, when it's easy to make money. But right now in this space with a lack of interest, you have thousands of developers that are sitting around going, hey, like, I'm looking for work. Hey, I'm looking for work. Like, what do you guys, give me, I'm down. Like, what are you working on? And so there's a lot of opportunity for innovation during these times. But it is also the most difficult time because it's when there's the least amount of cash flow and the least amount of interest, from people entering the space. For us, when I think about the bear market and I think about the next phase of education, or the next phase of crypto, a lot of it has to be in education, and you're seeing it with big companies launching academies, Binance, Crypto.com. They're launching digital versions of just essentially what I call libraries, right? They're not even academies; they're just like glossaries, so people can go in there and understand what does this term mean? What is that? What is leverage? What is DeFi? So they're just creating essential, just databases so people can go in and just learn more about this space, right? And with us, when I think about 2023, 2024, the bear market is probably going to last until 2025, 2026, maybe even longer. We're going to enter a long period of just uncertainty. And when you look at volatility, the most volatile times historically are always election years. Election years in the markets are always the most volatile times. And you can say next year, because in 2 weeks is 2023.
Yeah.
2024 is an election year, right? So in 13 months, we're going to enter an election year. And during that time, you're going to have a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? Trump has announced running for presidency in 2024. He's going to go up, against Biden if he decides to run again. So you're going to have a lot of instability, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of like chaos, fear in the markets, a lot of greed in the market. So when that comes, it creates volatility. And that's what I'm foreseeing in 2024. You're gonna have a lot of volatility. 2025, 2026 will be the beginning of probably whoever wins the next election, which is going to be, I can tell you that the campaign for the next election is going to be, probably the Make America Great point too, right? Like, Trump's going to come back and he's going to say, like, you see, I wasn't in office and look what happened. Everything fell apart, like inflation, all-time highs, interest rates at 9%. Like, we got to make America great again. And he's going to drive that home in every pain point that every person has ever felt at a grocery store, every person has ever felt at a pump. He's going to make, like, I'm going to make gas so cheap that, like, forget this electric vehicle initiatives. Gas is going to be 50 cents a gallon. Like, he's going to drive home what people's pain points are right now. And that's going to cause a lot of volatility in the market because billions and billions of dollars have been given to lobbying green companies, right? Green companies that are making that initiative to go green, all right? All the car companies that have pursued that initiative to go green. That's going to cause a ton of volatility now because now car companies are like, well, Audi just announced they're not going to manufacture any more gas cars after 2025, right? You have companies that are going, we're going full green. And now you have a Republican take office and go, I don't care. We're going to make gas so affordable, it makes no sense to own an electric car.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, oh, crap. Well, we can't have that. So you see, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be conflict in the next election, no matter what. And it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be slanders. I mean, it's just going to be a much worse version of 2020. So with that being said, you got to prepare. You got to prepare for things not going the way that you thought they were going to go. Right? You need to be very conservative. I keep telling anybody that's in our program, you have to be conservative. This is not the time right now to go and take extreme risk. This is the time to learn. This is the time to educate yourself. This is the time to build a plan. This is the time to build a strategy. This is the plan to understand how you want to position yourself for the next market. This isn't the time to give your cousin 50 grand to build a startup business. This isn't the time to give your friends 30 grand to go trading. Like, this isn't the time to like put your money in some trading bot and do this. This is not the time for that. During bull markets, that's when it's the time to do that, because everybody's making money. Right now, literally everybody's either trying to stay alive or they're trying to come up with creative ways to take your money. So when I think about 2023 for STF, is going to be a year of in-depth hand-holding education, a lot of just prepping yourself mentally for the next phase of the market, a lot of just controlled staging, learning, a lot of gamified learning, rewarding people for doing good deeds, incentivizing people for learning in a responsible manner, and giving people ways to grow, their ability, their not their ability, but to grow their skill set, right, in a supportive, accountable environment, right? Because that's what we're training all of our, trainers, all of our instructors, is to get you in a mindset of wealth building and not gambling, right? So we want to create people that are strongly willed in the way of building wealth, and not so much in the way of gambling. Like, I just want to put $1,000 and retire next year. Like, right? We want to change that mindset, because that's not scalable, that's not sustainable, and that's ultimately what ends up with depression. It ends up with people, losing their life savings. It ends up with people getting divorced over, mistakes, that were made financially. I mean, the number one, like, there's, right, if you think about the number ones and number two stressors of all people, right, one is health and money. Like, it's, if you can narrow down almost every single marital problem, every single personal conflict, the way you wake up in the morning, the way you do anything in life can be narrowed down to how you're feeling health wise and how you're feeling financially. If you're feeling a ton of financial stress, you're going to be more you get aggravated easily, you're going to be more short tempered, you're going to be like, you're going to be frustrated often, right? You're going to go and you're going to see friends on social media just living the good life, and envy's going to take over. You're going to feel frustrated as to, why is that person doing so much better than I am? Why can't I catch a break, right? Financial stress causes you to become a very, very, very negative, spiraling person, that it's just not fun to be around. Like, that's why, like, when you hang around somebody that's super broke, all they do is complain. Like, they're not talking about moving ahead in life. They're just focused on, like, everything that's wrong with the world right now and how much the world sucks. And right, and then if you look at health wise, then you can have somebody that's extremely motivated mentally, but they don't have the energy to do anything. They don't want to get up in the mornings. They're super tired all the time. They may be, in and out of hospitals, right? They may be stressed out because, they can't do what they normally were able to do before. Hey, like, so, and it's interesting, because even health, right, can be managed with money, right? If you have a lot of money, you can take care of your health.
Yeah.
You can spend money on the best supplements. You can spend money on the best natural, healing, paths. You can spend money on a gym. You can spend money on trainers. You can spend money on, right? Ultimately, in a capitalistic society, the only thing that matters is money, because we live in a microtransactional world. Everything costs money. You leave the house, it costs money. You get in the car, it costs money. Everything costs money. So financial stress, everything is always going to boil down to financial stress. And it sucks, because yeah,
It
it's
has
sort of how the world works, right?
it has such a grasp on a lot of aspects of life. And sometimes it leads to other challenges and problems, and we might we might think that the cause of our, maybe some triggered moments in the future or some things that happen to us are because of the money, but it's not just the money, but also the trauma that has come from that stress,
Mhm.
right? The memories, the experiences, moments, especially if you haven't worked through it, and you're still carrying on some things from the past, right? You're that mood turned into an attitude, turned into a temperament, and now it's affecting your eating. Now it's affecting how you're being with your son or your daughter, right? So again, it's important to have um, a community. It's important to have people around that you can lean on and ask questions to, especially those who have had success in the places that where you want to have success, whether it be health, finance, whatever the case may be. So that's why I personally like times like the times that we're in now, because people start doubling down on education, right? People get smarter.
Mhm.
It brings on different level type of conversations, like just regular conversations I'm having with people that, again, I've been having conversations with for 10, 15 years in some cases. And the conversations are changing based on what's happening.
Yep.
So it's like it's high level conversations. People are actually talking about things that are important, instead of just kind of just being ignorant to it, right? People want to be in the know, and information is it's so free now, right? There's you can be on YouTube and get information on how to buy a business or how to make it in the crypto space, right? Google has everything, YouTube has everything. So in these times, it's not just about education, but also getting the right education from the right people. Because if you are going to take the time to educate yourself, you should probably do it in a place where you're going to be able to do something and take on some skills that will actually work in your favor, and especially in times like these. Um, right? What's your take on? There's been a lot of conversation, at least in the internet marketing space, or even in the investor space. A lot of software, right? SaaS products, they never stop being built, especially now with the I would say the demand and the excitement about AI, right? With the stuff that people posted up in the last 2 3 weeks. What the conversation is like new world, right? Great reset, right? New money systems, right? The central banks trying to find a way to kind of answer to what's happened from the crypto space, or because of the advent of the blockchain and everything that has occurred. So like based on what's coming, based on some of the things that you've already learned about from you're in the market, brother. You're looking at new projects all the time. You're looking at ways to leverage the systems, the platforms, the exchanges. When it comes to this idea of the new world and potentially social credit systems being rolled out in more countries, and the more socialistic approach or way people are thinking about things, like what's happening, what should people look out for, and like if things are shifting, if we are going into a new era or I guess a new industrial revolution, if that's what's happening, then how do we profit in it? Like how do we set ourselves up properly to make the most of it?
That's a really good question. We spoke about that this morning in one of our calls, and AI is going to change the way that the world interacts with each other, but most importantly with machines, right? Because machine learning is the next evolution of, I think, us as a species and how we interact with each other, right? And you look at, for example, like right now, the way, if you think about artificial intelligence, right? Like, oh, if you hear my daughter in the background screaming,
Yeah, she
yeah,
she wants her daddy, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, that's gonna be the case. So when you think about artificial intelligence and AI, right? We had a conversation this morning of like what the future looks like and how people can prepare for it, and social credits and these things. And the reality of it is that you have to, one, you have to make sure that you, it sounds cliche, but you need to vote for the right people in power, if you can, right? Because that's where it starts, right? All the decisions are made from upstairs first, and what they allow, what they lobby for, and what there's it's allowed to be, instilled in society can be sped up a lot quicker if you have the wrong people in power. So if you're anti-social social scores and things like that, you need to make sure that you're voting for people that are also in that mindset, because it's unavoidable, it's inevitable. Like, AI is coming, it's already here, right? We Google is a perfect example of like undercover AI, right? um, it learns your behaviors, it learns your preferences. When you look at ad algorithms on social media, it's another example of artificial intelligence, right? But now with the introduction of like the GPT language, right, GPT-3, the open chat software from OpenAI, and these smart learning machine languages, the world is rapidly evolving towards a new, sort of like utopia type of idea, right? Where machines do all the work, right? Machines do all the work, they do all the heavy lifting, and we're sort of like, um, just chilling, right? That's the idea. And then you're rewarded for being a good citizen rather than what you contribute to society. Financially, you're more of like, well, if you just are a good person, we're gonna take care of you, because we don't need you to work anymore. Robots work. Robots take care of everything, right? So we don't need we don't need you to necessarily go out there and contribute physically anymore, right? Because we have machines that do that. But we need you to be a good person. We need you to not go rob people. We don't need you to go kill people. We don't need you to, we need you to do things in a socially, approved manner. And I think that's what China's experimenting with by, introducing social credits, and essentially creating an incentive for you to be a good human being, right? Creating a system where you're incentivized for just being a good person rather than what you are contributing, right?
Yeah.
And so contributing from a financial or workforce. And I'm sure there's algorithms that are taking all those things into consideration, right? But when you think about AI, like for example, the way they interact with Siri on your phone, or the way you interact with Alexa on your phone, and these smart devices, once they integrate these open language AI machine learning technologies into your phones, the world is going to rapidly change, because these programs learn from data that's being fed to them, right? And as data is being fed to them, they evolve. They get smarter with their answers, because they're learning your language, right? They're learning the way you communicate, they're learning the way that you use adjective, they're learning the way that you use nouns, and the way that you phrase words and sentences, right, and statements. And they're evolving, they're constantly evolving. When you give, for example, like Apple, right? Apple instills a program, a technology like this in a couple of years, into your phones, and Siri's constantly learning from everything you do, right? Not just your social media, but the way that where you spend your money, right? Every time you use Apple Pay, every time you text somebody, every time they're constantly, when Siri's learning all these things from a billion people all at once, the machine is going to compute these at an exponential rate. Like, you're talking about quantum computing, you're talking about the birth of, of singularity, right? A machine that can think on its own. And that's coming. Whether people are like, oh, that's like the Terminator all over again, maybe. We don't know the future, we don't know what it's going to look like, but we do know what we're working on, and we are working on that. And when I think about singularity, when I think about AI and advancing technology, like, there are some great things that can come from an innovative standpoint to make life easier. I think about, for example, like in the medical field, I think about hospice care. I think about, like nurses having additional support. You can think about, if you have a smart robot that has all this data that it has learned from you, and it can be a companion for you after your wife dies or your dog dies, right? You can put this technology um, into another essentially, being that can interact with you. And you could be in your later years in life and you're alone, you're lonely, and now you have somebody that talks to you, interacts with you, plays chess with you, plays video games with you. It's a friend, and that's a great aspect, to the technology. But then you have the opposite, right? I mean, where you can now introduce this technology too early to somebody and completely erode their ability to develop any social skills, right? Completely erode their ability to interact with other real human beings because they're only used to interacting with artificial intelligence. And the crazy thing is, like, this is not that far away. We're talking maybe a generation or two in separation. It will probably happen in our lifetime. Our grandchildren are going to be around this tech. And you're going to have, think about all the industries that are going to be replaced by AI. The DMV, right? The DMV, any type of government building that does this mundane data aggregation type of work, social security offices, welfare offices. Like, you're just going to walk in there and there's going to be a robot there that smiles at you and just takes your orders and just literally says, fill in the sheet on your phone. Okay, scan your phone here. Okay, thank you. Based on what you've given us, you are entitled to $375 worth of, crypto, whatever CBDCs. Okay, that CBDC has been deposited into your phone. Thank you. Have a good day. And that's what it's going to be like. You're not going to have interact. There's not going to be a need to interact with human beings anymore in these like type of mundane data aggregation type of industries.
Yeah.
And that's coming. All that is coming. So you're going to have a massive displacement of jobs. You're going to have massive displacement of essentially what we know. And is there opportunities to profit in it? Of course, there's opportunities to profit in it. You can begin to learn this stuff now and begin to position yourself for what's coming over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But I mean, I play around with OpenAI all the time, and it blows my mind how responsive it is. Like, it literally knows, like, it remembers our conversations. It calls back from things that I said a week ago, and it's constantly learning. And I give it scenarios, and I'm like, hey, like, you can do anything. You can be like, hey, I'm thinking of making a decision to purchase a car. These are the two cars that I'm thinking about. This is what this one costs. This is what this one costs. This is how much money I have. And you can let it play out different scenarios as to which car is the best car to buy based on your finances. You can give it scenarios as to, like, write an essay for me. Like, creative writing is going to be destroyed by AI.
Yeah.
Because you can just be like, hey, write a story where the main character does this, that, and faces a massive struggle, and and you give it the plot for the story and hit enter, and it's going to write the entire story for you. And it's like the way that books are created, the way that like content is created, all that is going to change. And eventually you're just going to be replaced by AI, in the sense that even reels on social media are going to be done by artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be
It's crazy
extreme.
when you think about
Yeah,
it. It's nuts, but it's happening. It's happening.
it's literally mind-boggling, bro. It's one of
Every
those things. Yeah.
every industry I'm talking about. I felt this as an artist, as a graphic designer, 10 years ago when I started seeing other software being used. I'm like, look, you can, now with Canva, it's like anybody can do a presentation, anybody can do a nice flyer. Like, those are the things that people would come to me for because of the skills that I had. Now it's like any
Yep.
college student with the phone, a high school student could put a nice flyer together
Yep.
with the best graphics, and none of it was actually done by them. They're just organizing things on
Yep.
the
I ran into a software yesterday called I'll have to go through my history. I can't remember now. But they're working on artificial intelligence for creating presentations. So
Oh,
you just type in, like, sales pitch for this building, da, 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 and literally hit enter, and it creates all the slides for you, all the content. It does everything for you. So PowerPoint, like one of the oldest, like, techs in the Microsoft offers, that's in danger.
Yeah.
If they don't acquire this new tech, they're going to be on the way out, because people are going to be like, why would I sit there and design 50 slides when I can have a software create them for me in 2 seconds,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's coming, man. The copywriting, the designing, website design, just content creation. Like there's gonna be videos that are gonna be created and generated. There's tools to edit your voice, to edit how you look. Like there's so many things you can literally take. You can. There's so many things to do. So many things that it can do now. So to know that this is where we are now in 2022, and with everything else that we talked about in this call, like to add AI onto it, it's like, look, it's a time to get serious. It's a time to get educated about what's out there. I don't think we have the time to really wait anymore, because there are so many things shifting, and they're shifting simultaneously. So having a good foundation about how to just be a good how to be a good investor for yourself, how to invest your time, your money, and your energy wisely, right? How to know how to be more risk tolerant when you need to be, and when to be
Mm-hmm.
more frugal. Like just
Yep.
like this, just like the simple strategies, very foundational strategies and skills. This is the time. It's a time to double down on learning, and to lock on with the right people. So, brother, thank you so much for taking the time out today. I know your wife must be excited to have you back in the house, so you can facilitate with Mila, and I know she's gonna be. Mila's excited to get her pops back.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. Let's do them more often. Lots of things to discuss, lots of things to talk about.